Let me ask you something. If someone close to you started acting differently, talking to themselves, withdrawing from people, saying strange things, would you know what was happening? Would you know the early signs of schizophrenia? Most people wouldn't. And that's a big problem because with schizophrenia, early detection matters. It can mean the difference between a life of chaos and a life of recovery, between misunderstanding and understanding, between suffering in silence and getting the help you need. So, in today's video, we're diving into how to recognize the early signs of schizophrenia before it's too late. Let's begin. First, what is schizophrenia? Schizophrenia is a serious mental illness that affects how a person thinks, feels, and behaves. It's not about having split personalities. That's a myth. Instead, it's about a disconnection from reality. People with schizophrenia may hear voices that aren't there, believe things that aren't true, or become extremely disorganized in their thinking and actions. It's a brain-based condition, chronic but treatable. It usually starts in late teens to early 30s, and it affects about 1 in 100 people worldwide. But here's the key. It doesn't usually appear suddenly. There are often warning signs, months or even years before a full psychotic episode. That's what we're focusing on today. Why early detection matters. The earlier schizophrenia is identified and treated, the better the long-term outcome. Why? Because the longer psychosis goes untreated, the more damage it can do to the brain, relationships, education, and work. Early treatment can reduce the severity of symptoms, improve quality of life, prevent hospitalization, protect brain function, and sometimes even prevent a full-blown episode. So let's go through the early warning signs, one by one. 1. Social withdrawal and isolation. One of the first signs is pulling away from others. This isn't just normal introversion or needing alone time, it's a deeper, more concerning withdrawal. Someone who used to be social may stop returning calls. They stop going to school, hanging out, or participating in family life. They may seem lost in their own world, and when you ask them why, they may not have a clear answer. Social isolation is often the first red flag. 2. Decline in functioning. This means a sudden or gradual drop in performance. A student who used to get good grades starts failing. An employee begins missing deadlines or calling out of work. Someone stops taking care of themselves. Poor hygiene, not eating, staying in bed all day. It's not laziness, it's not rebellion, it's the mind beginning to malfunction. Watch for changes in daily functioning, especially if there's no obvious reason like trauma or illness. 3. Odd or vague speech. Early schizophrenia often affects thought processes, which shows up in speech. You might notice talking in circles, giving bizarre answers to simple questions, using made-up words, jumping between unrelated topics, pausing mid-sentence like they lost their train of thought. It can sound confusing or off, and it may be hard to follow what they're trying to say. This is called thought disorder, and it's one of the core features of schizophrenia. 4. Unusual beliefs or magical thinking. Early on, a person might start expressing strange or unrealistic beliefs. For example, believing they're being watched, thinking they have special powers, feeling like TV shows are sending them secret messages, believing strangers can read their thoughts. Now, some of this might sound like imagination or creativity, but when these ideas start interfering with daily life or become fixed and unshakable, that's a warning sign. It's called delusional thinking, and in the early phase, it may come and go or be vague, but it's often the start of something more serious. 5. Heightened suspicion or paranoia. Another major early symptom is mistrust of others without a clear reason. They may start saying things like, I think people are talking about me. That car's been following me all day. I know my coworkers are plotting something. This isn't normal skepticism. It's a level of suspicion that's disproportionate, persistent, and sometimes disturbing. They may even become defensive or angry if you question them. This could be paranoid thinking, an early form of delusion. 6. Changes in emotion. The person might show blunted or inappropriate emotions. Blunted means little or no emotional expression, flat voice, blank face, no reaction. Inappropriate means laughing at sad things or getting angry out of nowhere. They might seem disconnected from the emotional tone of a conversation. You might think, something just feels off. You're probably right. This could be the brain struggling to process emotion normally. 7. Odd or disorganized behavior. You may start noticing strange behaviors. Wearing heavy clothes in summer, pacing back and forth for no reason, talking to themselves, laughing at nothing, collecting odd items obsessively, making repetitive, purposeless movements. They might also stop following routines, forget how to do tasks, or do things in a bizarre order. Disorganized behavior can be subtle at first, but it often gets worse if left untreated. 8. Sensory changes or hallucinations. Early hallucinations might not be full blown voices yet, but the person might say things like, "Did you hear that whispering? I keep seeing shadows move. My food tastes weird. That smell is awful, even though no one else notices it." These are signs of distorted perception. They may be brief at first, but they're a major red flag for an approaching psychotic episode. 9. Problems with attention and memory. People in early stages of schizophrenia often have trouble with concentrating, remembering conversations, organizing their thoughts, following a simple task from beginning to end. They may seem distracted, confused, or unable to stay focused. These are called cognitive symptoms, and they're often overlooked, but they're one of the strongest predictors of long term disability. 10. Sudden mood shifts or depression. Before full blown schizophrenia appears, some people experience sudden irritability, intense anxiety, panic attacks, deep depression, mood swings. Sometimes these mood symptoms are mistaken for bipolar disorder or just stress, but when they're combined with odd behavior or thought changes, they may be the beginning of schizoaffective disorder or early schizophrenia. Mood changes alone aren't a diagnosis, but they matter when seen with other symptoms. What is the prodromal phase? Everything we've just talked about, those early warning signs, fall into what we call the prodromal phase of schizophrenia. Prodromal means before the full symptoms appear. This phase can last months or even years, and it's often when families feel like something's just not right. Unfortunately, many people ignore the signs or misinterpret them. They say, "It's just a phase. He's just being dramatic. She's under a lot of stress. Teenagers are weird." But catching schizophrenia in the prodromal phase can dramatically change the course of illness. When to seek help. So when should you worry? If someone you know is showing multiple signs and they're getting worse over time, it's time to reach out. Talk to a primary care doctor, a psychiatrist, a school counselor, a mental health hotline. Don't wait for a crisis. It's better to get an evaluation and be wrong than to ignore symptoms and be too late. And if someone is hearing voices, seeing things, or becoming paranoid, that's an emergency. Get help immediately. Can schizophrenia be treated? Yes. There's no cure yet, but schizophrenia is treatable. Treatment may include antipsychotic medications, therapy like CBT for psychosis family support, and education skills, training and rehabilitation, community based support services. With early intervention, many people can live meaningful, independent lives. They can go to school, work, build relationships, and find purpose. But it starts with recognizing the signs and getting help early. Final thoughts: schizophrenia is a complex, challenging illness, but it's not a hopeless one. The earlier we recognize the symptoms, the more power we have to treat it, manage it, and support those affected. So pay attention to the signs, the strange behaviors, the quiet withdrawal. The changes in speech, thinking, or emotions, don't ignore them, don't brush them off, and most importantly, don't judge. People with schizophrenia are not broken, they are struggling, they are worthy of care, and with the right help, they can recover. If this video helped you, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if someone you love is showing these signs, share this with them. You might just save a life. Until next time, stay informed, stay compassionate, and take care of your mind.